Hello there and welcome back. My name is Elena.
And I'm Fotios, and this is the Game Court.
Today's video is all about the game of the month, and this month we chose Libertalia Winds of Galecrest.
Libertalia is a 1 to 5 player game. It's designed by Paolo Mori and published by Stonemaier games. Actually, this is the second version of the game, the re-implementation, if you wish.
Yeah.
The first version was published in 2012, and the second version is 2022 by Stonemaier games. And we should say this is a review copy.
Thank you very much. In Libertalia Winds of Galecrest, you're an admiral that has a diverse crew. You take to the skies, believe it or not. So you have a big...
You have airships.
You have airships, so you have a big ship that you actually go through the skies and you try to collect a lot of loot, really.
The loot do very powerful actions for you, and as do the crew members. And the cool thing about this game is that each ability is activating a different part of the game. So you have day abilities, you have dusk abilities, where you're also collecting your loot, right? And then you have night abilities.
Okay, that's a very, very cool thing, isn't it? Collect your loot in the dusk. Nobody can see you then.
Exactly. Stealing, right? Basically. In the game, you take on 3 voyages. So you basically play, if you wish, 3 big rounds, and each of these rounds is separated into days. So the first voyage is 4 days, the second 5, the third 6 days, and each day what you do, you play a crew member and you collect a loot, and some other stuff might happen.
I must say, you collect a loot if you can collect a loot.
If you can collect a loot.
If your opponent lets you collect a loot.
That's
or
correct.
If there is anything to collect.
To begin with, each player has 40 cards, which are the crew members basically, and one of the players will have to shuffle their cards and then randomly draw 6 of them, and the same 6 cards the other players need to find out from their deck. So then we start with 6 cards, the same cards, but the thing is that we simultaneously select a card secretly, and it might be the same. It might be different.
And the next round you do the same again.
Yes.
One person will draw randomly some cards, and then the other people will have to follow, and you don't know what the other people have in their hands, is it?
Correct.
So your deck does become a bit different by the end of the last day.
So basically, as you select a card to play, you think, okay, what is the best card for me to play that possibly nobody else will play, because if you play the same strategy, you don't get to win much. But equally, you're thinking of the possible strategies, and then you see your opponent do the strategies that you thought of before. So it's a bit of bluffing as well, if you wish, a bit of understanding what your opponent will do, so you do the opposite thing.
Each card has an initiative, and they go from 1 to 40. Each player plays a card, and they get arranged on the island from the left to the right as in ascending order by their initiative number, which is on every card.
In case there's a tie, then they order by the reputation order, which is basically the play order, if you wish.
Technically, yeah. And then actions start from left to right, and it starts with the day actions. If any cards have day actions, then it goes to the dusk actions,
Which
and
goes
it
the other
goes
way around.
opposite.
Yeah.
And then everybody does the night actions if they do have anything in their ship. So your ship is your card that you have played. If you can keep it at the end, then you will put it into your ship, and that will be your ship for the whole voyage, which would be 4, 5, or 6 days.
Yeah, and additionally, as you go through the dusk actions, you also collect a loot from the respective day, again, if there is one for you to collect. And not all loots have positive effects. Some of the loots have negative effects, either for you or for the other players.
Now, the catch of the game, because how we explain it sounds pretty straightforward, and it sounds like, you have a deck of cards, you actually play a card, and your opponent plays a card, and then you do whatever the cards do, left to right, right to left, and then everybody does a night action, right? So it sounds pretty easy peasy, but the difference in this game, and the reason why we actually made this game our game of the month, is because this game is incredibly, and when I say incredibly, I mean incredibly take-thaty.
You should expect it, because it's designed by a designer who has made predominantly war games. He has made Caesar, Seize the Rome in 20 minutes, and other war games. Paolo Mori, he's a very good designer, by the way. But yeah, you would expect that. And I think the larger the group, the funnier it becomes.
Yes.
The smaller the group, so when we're playing the 2 of us, and by the way, it plays very well at 2.
Surprisingly well, yes.
When we play the 2 of us, it's very take-thaty. Like, at some point I played a card which Elena didn't expect, and Elena took your card and she like...
Like, this game makes me feel so angry. I mean, you have some tiles that will let you, for example, discard a member of crew from the other one's ship, so somebody else's ship. The thing is, at the end of every voyage, whatever cards have an anchor symbol, they will have special abilities, or they will give you extra points. And the loot was... What do you mean?
The loot tokens have anchor abilities as well.
Some of them do, not all of them. Although some of them will have dusk abilities, but everything that you have collected throughout your voyage that has an anchor ability, then it will only score at the end of your voyage. And I think one of these cards was it gave me like 5 or 6 coins, which is a lot of coins, really. And it just got discarded.
But your engine resets at the end of every voyage, so your loot is discarded, and your crew members are going to the graveyard, basically.
You do have a graveyard.
So basically, you reset your engine, so each of the voyages can be like completely like towards one or the other player, which is also nice for catch-up purposes, I would say. And
can I just mention, before we go forward with the next mechanic that we want to talk about, as a variant, I would say, like to adjust the game for 2 players, onto the island you have a tile that, if placed below 20.5, the first card that's placed next to 20.5 on the left hand side, so lower than that, the opponent
of that card
will discard a loot
so you mean
before they pick up anything. So if you have a card, for example, that gives you an ability to discard or pick up something beforehand, then your opponent might end up with nothing, which is very painful, like, discarding a 5 coin card.
This overlay tile for 2-player game...
Let me say again, like discarding a 5 coin card.
Yeah, I did that, yes. So so this overlay tile, which is called the Midshipman, I think. It's, as Elena said, it's only for 2-player game, and I think it's something that changed from the first version of the game to this version of the game, and this is something that Jamie Stonemaier was discussing about, and actually it's a very good change, I would say. It makes the 2-player game feel more
even
like
more
a 3.
It
feels like a 3-player game, basically. Have one more character on the island, order there with other characters, which is very nice. I really enjoy. By the way, again, I should say that I really enjoy the game at 2. I don't know how.
It is very good.
Works
it's
very
surprisingly
well.
good.
Yes.
It's surprisingly good.
Other mechanics of the game, you have hand management, of course, and it's a very good thing because every player has exactly the same hand at the end of at the beginning of the game. Because as the game progresses, you keep the unplayed hands from your first voyage to the second voyage, and so on and so forth. So you may keep one very good card from the first voyage that everybody would play in the first voyage, you play it in the second voyage.
Or so you have some cards that give you abilities to actually bring somebody from the graveyard back into your hand, which is amazing. Or you can play them directly, which is even better, really, because it gives you an extra crew member.
Another key mechanic here is simultaneous action selection. At the beginning of every day of the voyages, we simultaneously select a card secretly, and I would say because of this mechanic, it makes the game to scale very well as you go up to the player counts, because everybody spends the time to think about it, simultaneously, so you don't take round by round around the table. So that's a very good aspect of the game, which I really enjoy.
As we mentioned, the game plays very well at 2, and we were quite impressed by the play at 2. Most games don't really play incredibly well at 2. Most games, we have our selection of 4-player games. Actually, we should probably talk about that. 4-player games that play best at 2. This will probably definitely make the top.
You know which game reminds me in that sense? Like the original Azul, because Azul plays very well at 3 or 4, but at 2 it's extremely take-thatty.
Extremely take-thatty, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it reminds me of that in a very good way, I would say. And I think another reason that reminds me of Azul is the very nice production tiles that Libertalia has.
The loot tiles are all very, all very like acrylic and chunky, and it's very nice to actually, you have them in a bag and you would select from there blindly and then set for 2 players 3 tiles per day.
Now the box says that the game plays, 45 to 60 minutes, and in a 2-player game I would say it's about 30 to 40 minutes, and I can see even in a 5-player game it's about an hour, not more than an hour.
Not longer than that, because it's technically whatever the card says, and most cards will have one action. Some of them will have two.
Yeah.
And it's not very many that will have night actions. So actions do go quite fast.
And even the night actions can be resolved simultaneously by all players. You
Correct.
don't have to go around the table again. And as you collect the doubloons during the voyage, at the end of the voyage, you put them in the chest, and they are safe, so you cannot discard them anymore. And I should say that I want to get the metal coins for this game.
I know, it's such a
Yes.
shame that we don't have them. I
Yes.
think the metal coins in this game will be very appropriate.
Yeah,
and it will give the game a very different feel. Very, very fast setup because the game has a very beautiful insert and everything is put together, and it's very easy to just take whatever you need, put them back, boop, done.
This is a common thing about all Stonemaier games. They have good inserts, they have good
Very good
production,
quality.
very good quality, but this particular game is very, very straightforward to set up. Very easy to set up, very easy to play, very easy to put back in the box. Amazing.
Oh, yeah. And apart from the insert, I wanted to say, because you said you put them in your chest to keep them safe. Apart from the box, they've made these little, to be
Dials,
perfectly
yes.
honest,
Yeah.
do you need them? Not really, but they've made these little dials in the form
Yeah.
of, in the shape of a chest where you can keep count of your money,
The
of your
previous,
coins.
the previous edition had this kind of score track, if you wish, that you keep the score. I think
Yeah.
the chest makes more thematic sense.
It is
in
more
this
thematic,
case.
and it's, it's one of those things that you don't really need, but do you like it? 100%.
Yeah, exactly. How about replayability?
So how about replayability?
All right, I think the game shines in that aspect. First of all, you have 40 cards per player, out of which you only see 18 in every game.
You don't play 18, do you? You play
You
15?
take 6 and 6. You see 18, but you only play 15.
You only play 15,
Yeah,
yes.
correct. But I mean, only that aspect makes the game highly viable. Also, how the loot comes out, of course, and
Yeah.
you change your strategy based on the cards you have as well.
Also, the map has two sides.
Yes.
So it has the day side and the night
The
side.
stormy side.
The stormy side. And the
yes.
stormy side, it's...
Even
well,
more take that.
it's meant to be more take-datty. The advantage is that you can play with whatever you feel comfortable. I think it says inside that if you're not very comfortable with the game, you should play with the day side, with the normal sunny side. And if you are, then we played with both sides, and I think we preferred the stormy side, although luckily you have some extra tiles that you could use, double-sided, that you could use in case you want to, for example, play with the sunny side, but you like some abilities of the other side, so you can just use the tiles to actually flip a few over, which gives it a great variability.
What really changes from the one side to the other is just the ability of the loots. Nothing else changes. Everything else
The
in the
ability
game
of
is
of the loot and the anchors.
correct. Everything else remains basically the same. Overall, from a replayability perspective, very good. And we talked already about quality, right? The cards are very nicely constructed. You have the linen finish by default in the retail version.
Again, like linen finish in the retail version, that's quite a plus, isn't it?
And you have a very nice acrylic tiles and everything.
And the insert, did I mention the insert? The insert.
It feels like a deluxe game as it is.
I know,
So-
it's quite impressive. Like, for a retail version, it's a good quality game.
As we said in the beginning of the video, this is a review copy and you have to take that into account. But really, we were quite impressed by this game. So initially, this game was not in our radar only because, it says...
Stats-wise, isn't it?
It says place 2 to 5. And if you go to BGG, maybe 4 is the ideal player count. It's very nice actually in high player count as well. But it's really very good at 2. And I didn't expect that at all.
We would normally go for like an economic game, and we would normally go for something that's on the heavier side and something that plays better at 2, like, what we would normally prefer. So this game is kind of out of our radar. By the way, did we say the art is beautiful?
Well, this is some people disagree. Some people like more the art of the previous game.
Oh, art is very subjective. I think I say
correct.
this all the time, but I think the art is pretty cool and I really like it. And it looks quite nice and neat, and fuzzy is a word I would want to use. Fuzzy, a bit fuzzy. It's not fuzzy, it's going to punch you straight in the face.
Yeah, so...
What were we talking about? Sorry. Yeah, I just realized that I saw the art and I'm like, oh, that's very nice.
We're talking about the fact that, it was a good surprise for us.
Correct.
And that's why it's the game of the month.
Yes, that's a good surprise. I mean, as you said, it is a review copy and we're very appreciative of it. We were not 100% sure how we're going to feel about it, but it is a great game.
But it's going to stay in our collection, that's for sure.
It does give me a little bit of vibes of, and it's probably completely unrelated, but a bit of Seven Wonders Duo, kind of,
I actually realized that I did mention that the game plays 1 to 5, but it actually plays 1 to 6. And this is quite an important distinction because you don't have a lot of games playing up to 6 players and, in a reasonable amount of time. So that's another positive of the game, I would say. 1 to 6, not 1 to 5. So with regards to other game recommendations, I would say that if you want a game that plays and scales well from 1 to 6 players, you should also look at Hit, Pedal to the Metal. It's not really...
It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same weight, but it's a completely different game, though. It's just a racing game, isn't it?
It's a racing game in heart, but still you have the simultaneous action selection because you draw cards simultaneously. Still you have 1 to 6 players. Still a Hit plays about an hour. I'm not sure with 6 plays in an hour, but anyway. But still you have all of these elements as well. As you said, the weight is a very common element here.
I would probably suggest Caesar, and not to be biased, I have to mention Caesar is not my favorite game, not my favorite 2-player game, but I think it gives me the same vibes of head-to-head. It gives me the same feeling and it gives me the same interaction to some degree, but I truly prefer this one over Caesar, and especially at 2 players, because we played it at 2 players mainly, so it kind of gives me the same idea. So if you like Caesar, you should try this one.
I love Caesar. Seize the Rome in 20 minutes. It's such a nice small design, and I see where you're coming from, and I see because same designer, they give you the same take that feeling. But I would say, even if I like Caesar, I would say I prefer Libertalia. I don't know what it is about it, but I prefer it.
Oh, another game would be Splendor Wonders Duo. 7 Wonder Duels. I mentioned it a moment ago anyway, and that's because of the take daddy element and the fact that you can discard some cards that your opponent wants and stuff like that. You can get back from the discard pile and stuff like that, like kind of the same elements.
Okay, if you go to 7 Wonders Duel, why don't we also go to 7 Wonders the big game? Again, a game that plays in a high player count, not down to 2, but you can play from 3 to 7.
Not as aggressive, I would say.
Not as aggressive, but again, because you have the drafting, cards go around the table, you have this simultaneously decision aspect as well. So again, 7 Wonders could be another suggestion for you here.
Right, I hope you've enjoyed our video today.
That was the game of the month. Libertalia wins of Galecrest.
Thank you very much for watching.
See you later.
Bye.